Welcome to the Expert Speaker Podcast. We have guest expert today, Samantha Moonsammy. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Hey, Majeed, so happy to be here.
I've known you a long time, Samantha, and I know you were an event planner before, and now you're publishing books. How long have you been publishing books?
Well, my son is 2.5 years old. I always said he was going to help me birth my next business idea, my business baby, and he definitely did that. So, yes, I am a retired event planner since 2015. And since then, I was just helping people grow their businesses and make sure that my all that intel I learned about being an entrepreneur didn't go to waste. And then when I just had my son, I started writing my first book. I actually wrote my first book in 14 days. And I put it out actually on my husband's birthday. It was actually a wedding planning hack book. So learn all the secrets of an event planner. So I put that out to the world. And then all of a sudden, all the people I used to work with in the past are like, hey, you're publisher, you can publish books. Can you help me? Can you help me? So I'm actually an accidental publisher, but now 2 years later, over 26 books. I love it so much. And it's such a legacy piece. Like, I loved events and the experiences and the moment in time that an event does for you. It brings people together, creates that experience. Now, a book, like, it's going to outlive us, right? Like, it's such a cool feeling to help someone like bring a book to life.
It's amazing to hold your own book in your hand. Congratulations. The first time I wrote a book, I did not have a coach, I did not have a process, and it took me years. And you know what I was doing during those years? Nothing. I was just beating myself up for not writing the book until I hired a coach who said, look, here's the process, boom, 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 boom. And, it was partly because I had paid a lot of money to work with someone, and partly because someone else was like holding me to a process that I got that second book done way faster. And that one actually really helped me with my business. It was the kind of book that someone could read and say, gosh, I got to hire this guy. That was my intention in writing the book. So I know the power of having a book as an expert. And Samantha, as you know, my clients are experts in their field. They're speaking on stages, they're speaking on podcasts, and I recommend to everybody to write a book. And I want to recommend that they work with you. So can you walk me through what's the process? If I send someone to you and you say, okay, let me help you write your book, what are the steps that they would take?
You know what? Thank you so much, Majid, for sharing your story. Your story is like so many people I meet. How many times has someone come to me and said, I've been thinking about this book for like 10 years and I haven't done anything with it.
Yeah.
So even you, who's in the speaker industry, you procrastinated until you actually worked with an expert. So that's what I love. I mean, we know that anyone can publish a book. You can self-publish and like go on YouTube and figure this out. But there is such tremendous value of actually working with someone who knows the client journey. The reality is book publishing changes all the time. So it's my job at Lucky Book Publishing to kind of keep you on track and get you like stay on top of what's going on in the cycle. Your job as a speaker, an entrepreneur, or the person who wants to write a book is literally focus on your topic. Okay. So all of the people that we've worked with, it's this is your zone of brilliance, right? Like you have a story. And if you've worked with Majid already, you've obviously crafted your keynote talk already, right? So you're actually ahead of most people that we work with. So our job is to help get the words from that talk and turn it into a best-selling nonfiction book. Okay. So number one, we start with a solid book outline. So, what happened to you when you just stalled? I have a feeling you didn't have a really good book outline to follow. So, the first 90 minutes of working together, that's what we work on. So, we help you with your idea finder and we help you craft a 30,000 word nonfiction book. This includes all the chapters, the introduction, the conclusion, all the bonus lead pages, everything. So that on those days when you're feeling lazy or you're feeling that imposter syndrome, you've got this solid book outline to be like, nope, I already did the work. I know step by step. I just need to sit down and now write this thing. So first 90 minutes, this is what we do. It's a book outline. So were you working? Did you do a book outline when you wrote your book, Majid?
I did. Yeah, I had a no, when I hired a coach. When I
Yes.
hired a coach, that's exactly what we did first. When I didn't have a coach, I was just wondering, should I do this and should I do that? It's so much procrastination and it's so emotionally draining. My own experience is like I'm just doubting, like, should I put this in? Should I not put this in? Is this too long? Is this too short? I didn't have a good way of knowing what was should
Exactly.
go in the first book.
Exactly. So this framework is gold, okay? You want to write, and you also want to write a high quality book, right? You don't want to write something that, so you need to put time into this. And I have a system of like what every chapter should look like. Everything follows a certain model. Where did I get this model from? Well, I taught, you know what I mean? I've probably read thousands of books myself, but my job as a publisher is to make sure your book has like a client, it's for the reader. It's not about you anymore. So I think that that's really exciting that when you work with an expert, they're going to help lay all of that out for you. So, step one is that. Step two is focusing on the title and the subtitle. So, we only have 5 seconds in front of an audience, okay? So, in 5 seconds, they're going to look at your cover and be like, is this book for me? Okay. So we obsess over, yes, people do judge a book by its cover. Okay. So the idea, there's a lot of work that goes into a best selling cover. First, it's the title and subtitle, and there's lots of research and data that goes into understanding your niche, figuring out like what your competitors are doing. So one of the first books I wrote was on Airbnb investing. All the book covers were blue and black, like the top 20. So what did I do? My cover's white. Okay. So that's like a small little hack of just like something that maybe you never thought about, but these are the type of things that we're thinking about. The other thing is, what is your book hook? So, just like in speaking, I'm sure you teach your clients this too, Majid. What is the profound problem? Because guess what? In nonfiction world, that's what they're searching for. They're staying up at night. They're thinking about like what's going on in my life. I have a problem and I want to know a solution for it. So your title and subtitle needs to match all of that. So there's a whole magic that goes into figuring out the title and subtitle and the cover. And I would say this is my favorite part of working with clients because once we figure that out, you can have your cover out before your book's even written. And this just becomes talk about setting you up as a thought leader, an expert in your field. Imagine you've already got your keynote speech and then you have like a coming soon book cover later in the year. Like that's super exciting.
I love that. And I think, there's the expression, don't judge the book by its cover. And why is that expression exist? That's because everybody judges the book by its cover. And I know how you're totally right. Um, I made my book cover bright yellow with a mousetrap on it for my book called The Small Business Trap because I knew it was going to get people's attention. And like you said, from keynote speeches, you got to get people's attention. And the way the industry has shifted in my world is it used to be that people would have a full 60 minutes with what's called a captive audience. And now my clients are making short videos that are 1 minute long, who really it's the first 2 seconds that matters the most, the hook, So I think you're spot on to be focusing on title and cover so much because nobody wants to write a book that nobody's going to read. And if you have the right title and the right cover, I think you're halfway there in terms of getting people to pick up the book.
Exactly. So talking about like it being legion, and wow, that's a very good example of things changing so very fast. I think what I've noticed too, I don't think this, what I've realized is there's a disruption in the publishing industry. So people realize now, wow, yeah, I can write a book, but is anybody going to read it? So that's another secret sauce of something that's fundamental in our company. I don't want to just publish a whole bunch of books that nobody's going to read. So, something that we do in our company is every Monday we have author community calls. Just like in your industry, opportunities come from people. So not only are you going to publish a high quality, amazing book, you're going to now build out a 12 to 24-month book launch schedule and all of the touch points on how you're going to reach your audience. So we spend a lot of time doing something called an audience avatar, that one person that you're writing this book for. And we're trying to understand like where do they live? You talk about that too in your expert speaker book. You talk about like understanding your audience and all of that. We do the same thing because it's a lot of fun because if your book, you know what I mean? So Connie Rotella, she's a famous choreographer and dancer. So she's very well known in like the music dance industry. You know what I mean? So she wrote this book called The Force Within. So her audience is the creative, it's the dancer. You know what I mean? She owns a beautiful dance studio in Montreal. She travels all over the world and choreographs. She is going to attract the creative industry, those big association events, the training camps, the you know what I mean? She could do such great like affiliate collaborations with other people, thought leaders in the artist world, right? So it's so fun. This is actually my favorite part. I'm sure you can see me lighting up right now because I'm a former event planner. This is where the magic happens. So not only are we a publisher who's going to help you write and publish a high quality book, the book marketing is where I think like 90% of the journey is because the average person sells about 150 books in a lifetime. So that's typically like
Crazy.
your neighbors, your friends, like you're going to go to a few events, but then it's going to flatline. Like that's not really a lot of books, right? We have a system and really it's about consistency, probably the same in the speaking industry where you've got to make a plan. You've got to, like today's the beginning of January. Today we set up, I asked all my authors, what do you want to achieve in 2025? And like, tell me your top three things. When I heard the three things, I can now then go and coach and mentor them over the next few months to make sure that they stay on track to do that. They have to do the work, but I could definitely show them how to do that in an efficient way so that they don't burn out, so they can swap ideas with each other, and that they can do this and do it fun. Like, I'm about to go to New York City and do a speaking event. I'm bringing two other speakers with me. They're going to be on billboards in Times Square announcing their new book. And they're also going for speaking engagements because I'm sure it's the same in your industry. There's an energy about doing this stuff together in a community.
That's so cool. That's, I'm sure, a dream come true to see the book in Times Square on the billboard, to speak internationally in New York City. Um, so, um, what are some of the challenges people run into when they don't have a coach, when they're trying to write the book, trying to sit down, they're hitting the writer's block? What are some of the big challenges you see people who are, say, trying to do it on their own?
Absolutely. Well, number one thing I see about people doing it on their own is a lot of times you actually can get through the manuscript, but then you sit on it. I meet so many authors who like, I actually finished my book a year ago or 2 years ago. And I'm thinking, well, what are you doing? They're like, well, I didn't know how to publish it. So I think that that's the number one thing. So you just kind of wasted a bunch of years where you could have really been helping a lot of people. Like you wrote this nonfiction book for a reason. There's likely some powerful stories in there and some key lessons and some cheat codes to improve other people's lives. So I would say that's the number one thing. And I don't blame you. I mean, why do you want to learn a whole new industry from scratch? Like, if you're a thought leader and you're doing really good, like you're a doctor or a holistic nutritionist or a choreographer, do you really want to learn all the ins and outs of publishing? So I would say that's the number one thing is it actually doesn't get off your laptop.
That makes sense. And I've published 5 books now, but I actually don't know what happens when the manuscript's done and then the paper copy gets into my hand because I've always hired someone to take care of that part.
Yes.
Um, and I was I was surprised by the editing process.
Yeah.
Um, my book, I thought it was good when I wrote the first draft, but it got so much better through revision and editing. Um, I had other people read it and give me feedback. So, talk to me about how do you get to the point where you say it's done, it's ready to publish? Because I can imagine some people never feel like it's quite good enough.
100%.
What is that? What are those last stages like in your process?
Absolutely. Well, that's why we go back to that outline. So right away, I understand like what is it you're trying to achieve in this book, and you're following that roadmap. There's always those bonus pages that we add afterwards, like the author, like about the author and all those details. But I would say, when do you know your book is done? Well, number one, did you follow your outline and get everything done? Number two, I always tell people don't edit while you write. Okay, so just write your book one time all the way through. Then go back and read and see that you put everything that you wanted in. Once again, nothing should be missing if you follow that book outline. And then you're right, you have to just give it up to me. So, what's cool about working with a coach, which you know, is that like I'm tracking everyone. Like I know where every single one of my clients are on the life cycle. So, I'm not going to leave you hanging. If you told me that you're on chapter 8 and you're about to do your conclusion, well, in a week's time, I'm going to ask you, all right, where's that draft? I want to see it, right? So, there's kind of no time to waste. And I think that this is what's really cool about the process. Then I'm going to review it and I'm going to give you my honest feedback. So that's really cool too. You just talked about the editing process. One time I got an 80,000 word manuscript. My sweet spot's 30K, and that's just
Oh
based on
my God. Yes.
exactly. You already know that. You're like, is anyone going to read this 80,000 word book? The answer is no. I'm sorry. We
Yeah.
cut it down to 40,000 words. And he read it over and he's like, and I said, yes, all the key messages and lessons are still here. We just took out all the extra stuff that's going to distract your reader from the superpower messages that you put in here, right? So this is another
Mm.
thing. So if you're a first time, listen, people become bestsellers all the time. You're a bestseller award. It's not the best writer award. Your story deserves to be told. Your voice matters. But the reality is, can you do it all alone? Yes, you can. Is it going to be good? It'll be a 10x better if you work with a team of editors, proofreaders, have a professional copywriter, do your back cover and your sales page, have an expert looking at your cover. So that's the thing. I mean, I think you probably, it happens in your industry too. Like, you want to create something that represents you, professional, polished. You want this to be like turning your business card into a billboard. So that's another reason why you should get it into my hands sooner than later, is you're kind of like leaving money on the table. The longer you keep your book in your hands, the longer I can't help you launch it so that you can get more speaking gigs, get that exposure, and get your great words out.
Hmm. How long should someone plan to take? Like, I'm sure there's people thinking, I don't have enough time to write a book. Um, when you take someone through a process, how many weeks or how many months is your process? And how many hours per day or per week should they be focused on writing or working with you?
Yeah. That's a great question. So I have a 4 week book publishing course. So I actually tell people I wrote my first book in 14 days. If you are writing about something that you know very, very well, you can write it in 7 to 20 days. There's no question about it if you follow the steps. Does it need to be a 30,000 word book for your first book? It doesn't. Like 10,000 words is like perfectly fine. Like I call them like business card size books. Like let that be your first book and just like get it out there, right? So I love teaching people that, you know what? I don't want to overwhelm you. Let's just start with 10,000 or 15,000 words. Something realistic. That's what I would recommend to a very busy professional who wants to still write the book themselves, but get it done in a timely fashion. When you're working with that kind of deadlines, the typical thing I see is 90 days. It's like, so we can go from creating your idea to you writing your book to us doing the publishing and launching the book within 90 days. So that's really exciting. Um, Obviously, the people who do the 30,000 word books in 3 to 6 months, they're often doing it like almost full time, like themselves. Like they're retired or they have a bit of a sabbatical in their very busy schedule and they've carved out this time to actually make it happen themselves. We do have a VIP package that includes writing services for people too. That's great for someone who's like, you know what? I have my idea, I have my book outline. I've been sitting on this for so long. I've not been able to put on that egg timer for 20 minutes a day and just write. So can you help me write this book? Answer is yes. So there's so many options in book publishing to make sure that, you get those great words out and your message gets out to the world. Like that's really what this is about. And what's fun is that you get the first book out, like you're on number 5, people are going to tell you what they want to hear from you next because they're going to read it and be like, "Hey Majid, like I know you've done this, like can you share this next?" And it just becomes like really fun. Like lots of our authors are on to book number 2 and 3 just because of that.
It's so fulfilling, so rewarding. Once you get the first one done, you want to write 5 more. Um,
All the time. Yes.
Now you must deal with imposter syndrome a lot. The thought of who am I to write this book? I'm not the best in the world. I'm not the expert. There's, Professor so and so, he's better than me, and someone already else published something like this. Why should I publish a book? There's lots of already books out there. How do you help people get past those thoughts?
Yes. I love this question so much. I just want to first be honest and say that imposter syndrome never goes away. Self doubt never goes away. There's
Mm,
new level, new devil. You'll get to the next stage and be like, is it okay? I remember Oprah saying, she's like, every single one of my interviewees, they could have been like a president or a New York Times bestseller. They'd all look at me after an interview and say, did I do okay? Was that all right? As
wow, yeah.
humans, it's normal. It's normal for us to seek that validation and be like, is this okay? Is this okay that I say this? And I want to say to you, yes. Number one, your story matters. So gone are the days. I don't think you would have saw someone like me being like the head of a publishing company 50 years ago. Okay. So
Mm,
the world has changed for the better. It's time for people to be their authentic selves, share their story, and I think that that's really like where we come in. Like we're that welcoming space. So gone are the days where you have to write a pitch to a traditional publisher and then like hope they'll take your book, and then guess what? They take all of your royalties. They'll give you 9 to 11% and not do anything for you for book marketing. I mean, we have many clients who've worked with like the big five and have decided to go with a more hybrid publisher because they're getting more support and they get that kind of community family feeling. So number one, imposter syndrome will never go away, but it's important to understand that like your story deserves to be told and you matter. So we spend so much time on mindset. And that's why the accountability is so big too, because sometimes I notice that like if someone's not handing in their manuscripts, I know why. It's because like they're nervous. They're like, oh, if I give it to Sam, if I submit it to Lucky Book, like it's real. Like, what if they hate it? I haven't had one book I hated. Have I had books that required a little extra editing compared to somebody else's? Yes. But that's no reason for it not to let the great words out. Like because, right from the beginning, we work on you understanding your audience. And I want people to understand that, you know, a book isn't about ego. A book is about helping others. The book isn't even about you anymore. Like it's just like you're just the carrier of a message is what I think. I think most of our authors would say like it's a very spiritual exercise to have this book downloaded to you and you share it. So once we understand that the message is bigger than us, if you focus on service, I think that's how you get rid of like how you move past, shall I say, not get rid of, move past imposter syndrome. Because once you know you're doing it for service and for good reasons, it's beyond you. It's beyond Sam's self doubts that it's not that great. It's more just like I'm here to help people. I'm ready to have a conversation. And another thing is that word expert, you just have to be one step ahead of the person that you're talking to. I'm sure you share the same thing as a speaker coach, right? Like that's all it is. Like
yeah,
if you've
yeah,
gone through those cheat codes already, like go share it. And that's the most important part.
yeah. You really hit the nail on the head. Um, I'm not surprised a lot of your coaching's around mindset because I know how how challenging it becomes, and that's on every one of my books. As a matter of fact, it didn't go away. I'm always doubting myself through the process, and that's why I've always hired a coach after the first book. Well, Samantha, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom here. For people that want to work with you, where should they go?
So I'm everywhere. I'm at luckybookpublishing.com and I'm on every social media. So definitely we share every week. We have weekly writing labs. So if you just want to get your feet wet and get a little piece of the Lucky Book Publishing experience, come join me for a distraction-free writing space where you can, start working on your book idea. And then I'm also doing these 90-minute deep dive book outline writing classes every few weeks. So all that information is available online. And I'm so excited to, it's the new year. It's a time for, I think this is on a lot of people's like goal list, right? I want to write a book. 2025 is my year. And it's been really exciting to meet all these new
Yeah.
people and share their ideas.
What a great way to get started with the outline and the writing session. So check out Lucky Book Publishing. Samantha Moonsammy, thank you for sharing your wisdom here on the Expert Speaker Podcast. If you're listening to this, if you've got a book inside of you, go check out Lucky Book Publishing. If you're a client of mine, you're working with me right now, get the book published. I know as a speaker, it's easier to get speaking engagements when you have a book. And I love bringing boxes and boxes of my books to my speaking events because people love a signed autographed copy. And the last event I went to in Toronto, we sold 150 people into a program. And the bonus for signing up for the program is that you get an autographed copy of my book right now. And people love that. And I've had the experience many times. I'll give someone a copy of my book for free. A week later, my phone rings. Majeed, read your book. I want to work with you. So it's a phenomenal asset, which is why I'm bringing you here on the podcast, Samantha, and I'm encouraging my clients to get the book published.
That's so awesome. Thanks for sharing your story. I love it.
All right.